Hare Krishna, dear devotees. It's an honor and privilege to be again with you. Yeah, I hope that by Krishna's mercy we can churn the ocean of nectar of knowledge of Bhagavad Gita for the pleasure of Krishna and for our own benefits. We were a little bit late. Two of the reasons we were waiting for you to join, and also Atala Krishna Prabhu asked the question before we started to record, but doesn't matter. We are practically on time. So we are in continuation of our reading. We came to the fourth chapter, Transcendental Knowledge, which starts with very wonderful verse by Lord Shri Krishna, Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavam Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Prava Manar Ikshvakave Bravit. The blessed Lord said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivasvan, and Vivasvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. Herein we find the history of the Bhagavad Gita, traced from a remote time when it was delivered to the royal order, the kings of all planets. This science is especially meant for the protection of the inhabitants, and therefore the royal order should understand it in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from the material bondage to lust. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge. Eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the executive devotion. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to Krishna consciousness, so that the people may so that the advantage of path as the opportunity on as Vivasvan, the king of the sun, which is the origin of all planets within the solar system. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Yachakshuresha Savita Sakala Graham, etc. I will just read the worship, the translation. Personality of Godhead, Govinda, Krishna, who is the original verse and under the traverse, someone can explain? Maybe in your translation of Gita is different, but I just don't understand this word, and I don't know what it means.
Which one, Prabhu?
The Lord, the sun represents the eye of the Lord, and it's written traverses. I don't know. Its orbit.
Yes.
Traverses, or how to read, like travels. Its orbit in the obedience to His order. This word traverse.
Yes. The sun represents the eye of the Lord and traverses its orbit in obedience to His order.
Yeah, what does it mean, this word traverses?
Yeah, traverses means to go through. To go through.
Yeah.
Go through.
Yes. Okay, thank you. The sun is the king of the planets, and the sun god at the present of the name Vivasvan rules the sun planet, which is controlling all other planets by supplying heat and light. He is rotating under the order of Krishna, and Lord Krishna originally made Vivasvan his first disciple to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is not therefore a speculative treatise for the insignificant mind and scholar, but is a standard book of knowledge coming down from time immemorial. In the Mahabharata, Shanti Parva 348, 51 to 52, we can trace out the history of the Gita as follows. Treta Yuga Dao Chatato Vivasvan Manave Dadao Manushaloka Britya Artam Sutayekshakve Dadao Ikshvakuna Chakatito Vyapyo Lokan Avastitaha. In the beginning of the Treta Yuga millennium, the science of the relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivasvan to Manu. Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to his son Maharaj Ikshvaku, the king of this earth planet, and for after of the Raghu dynasty in which Lord Ramachandra appeared. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita existed in the human society from the time of Maharaj Ikshvaku. At the present moment, we have just passed through 5,000 years of the Kali Yuga, which lasts 432,000 years. Before this, there was a Dwapar Yuga, 800,000 years, and before that, there was a Treta Yuga, 1,200,000 years. Thus, some 2,005,000 years ago, Manu spoke the Bhagavad Gita to his disciple and son Maharaj Ikshvaku, the king of this planet Earth. The age of the current Manu is calculated to last some 305,300,000 years, in which 120,400,000 have passed. Accepting that before the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to his disciple, the sun god Vivasvan, a rough estimate is that the Gita was spoken at least 120,400,000 years ago. And in human society, it has been extant for the 2 million years. It was re-spoken by the Lord again to Arjuna about 5,000 years ago. That is the rough estimate of the history of the Gita according to the Gita itself and according to the version of the speaker, Lord Shri Krishna. It was spoken to the sun god Vivasvan because he is also a Kshatriya and is the father of all Kshatriyas who are descendants of the sun god or the Surya Vamsha Kshatriyas. Because Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas, being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this knowledge is apaurushaya, superhuman. Since the Vedic instructions are accepted as they are without human interpretation, the Gita must therefore be accepted without mundane interpretation. The mundane wranglers may speculate on the Gita in their own ways, but that is not Bhagavad Gita as it is. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita has to be accepted as it is from the disciplic succession. And it is described herein that the Lord spoke to the sun god spoke to the son of Manu, and Manu spoke to his son Ikshvaku. I will read just 2 more verses because they are connected. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it appears to be lost. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend. Therefore, you can understand the transcendental mystery of this science. It's clearly stated that the Gita was especially meant for the saintly kings because they were to execute its purpose in ruling over the citizens. Certain demoniac person who would, despite its device of today's commentators, there arose the need to re-establish the disciplic succession. 5,000 years ago, it was detected by the Lord himself that the disciplic succession was broken, and therefore he declared that the purpose of the Gita appeared to be lost. In the same way, at the present moment, also there are so many editions of the Gita, especially in English, but almost all of them are not according to the authorized disciplic succession. There are innumerable interpretations rendered by different mundane scholars, but almost all of them do not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, although they make a good business on the words of Sri Krishna. This spirit is demoniac, because demons do not believe in God, but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme. Since there is a great need of an edition of the Gita in English, as it is received by the Parampara disciplic succession system, an attempt is made hereby to fulfill this great want. Bhagavad Gita, accepted as it is a great boon to humanity. But if it is accepted as a treatise, I don't know how it's read, treatise or philosophical speculation, it is simply waste of time. There are two classes of men, namely devotees and demons. The Lord selected Arjuna as the recipient of this great science owing to his becoming the devotee of the Lord, but for the demon, it is not possible to understand the great mysterious science. There are a number of editions of the great book of knowledge, and some of them have commentaries by the devotees, and some of them have demons. Just a moment. Demons is useless. Arjuna accepts Shri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and any commentary on the Gita following in the footsteps of Arjuna is real devotional service to the cause of this great science. The demoniac, however, cannot, concoct something about Krishna and misled the public and general readers from the path of Krishna's instructions. One should try to follow the disciplic succession from Arjuna and thus be benefited. So I read the first 3 verses and commentaries because they are connected, explaining the purpose of revelation of this knowledge. So as we know, Bhagavad Gita starts when Arjuna accepted the position of disciple, and it's in one way Krishna's kindness to Arjuna, to his friend, to help him to cross over the incomprehensible challenges. But in same time, being Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna is doing always multitasking work. And therefore, by explaining this knowledge, he established again disciplic succession. And in first verse of this chapter called Transcendental Knowledge, Krishna explained the origin of this knowledge, how it exists practically from the beginning of the mankind. But in verse 2 and 3, he is explaining that somehow this knowledge was broken, and the disciplic succession through which this knowledge was presented didn't operate anymore. And now, not that Krishna is helping Arjuna only, but he is also establishing again the disciplic succession as a, I like to say, the bona fide educational institution for receiving this knowledge. I use this example, and in some earlier classes I mentioned this, that we cannot just take, Prabhupada uses this example, we cannot just take medical books, read something, and even learn by head some ideas, and we can say, now I'm the doctor. It's not possible, isn't it? We need to go to proper educational institution, which is, how to say, certificated by a general educational institution, usually called Ministry of Education of some country. And there is a proper curriculum, then there are proper professors who are already went through this knowledge, and then from them someone is learning, passing the exams, and then such a person can be called doctor or any other profession. In the same way, in the spiritual science, we have a bona fide educational institution or Ministry of Education called Guru Parampara. This is the, how to say, we can say the only way for a practitioner of spiritual science to be trained properly and to receive knowledge properly. And in second commentaries, Prabhupada explained that although there are so many translations of Bhagavad Gita, even in the time when Prabhupada was translating, Prabhupada is mentioning that there are hundreds of translations, but since these translations are not done under the guidance of this bona fide educational institution called Guru Parampara, practically there was no result of studying Bhagavad Gita. And what should be result of studying Bhagavad Gita? The result should be, as Krishna says twice in Bhagavad Gita, become my devotees, surrender unto me, worship me, offer me obeisances, and always think of me. That's the result of receiving proper knowledge. But if translations of Bhagavad Gita are not presenting Krishna as a Supreme Personality of Godhead to whom someone has to surrender in order to be empowered by the knowledge, or in order that that knowledge can be revealed to the heart of the student, then it's not possible that this knowledge reveal the truth. And therefore is a need, great need. Prabhupada explains practically that in the same way as Krishna was establishing disciplic succession 5,000 years ago, explaining Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, his translations of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to fulfill the same purpose, establishing the Guru Parampara in modern age. And it's very, very important to understand. And also, although we are becoming, as a second or third generations, we're becoming disciples of Prabhupada's disciples. No one of them is claiming this is my knowledge, because bona fide guru is someone who is a bona fide student. And if someone becomes excellent student by accepting this knowledge according to the same principles which Arjuna followed, then the result will be the same. And this is the mystery of this book. We have experienced that 5,000 years ago, we are reading Bhagavad Gita, and in all parts of the world, people are changing their consciousness, their hearts, and they're becoming Krishna's devotees. For example, we can say that this platform now on which we are discussing is a kind of the spiritual sangha, and we have people from different, someone from India, someone from which places you're coming from, different parts of the world. I'm coming from very small country, which is less than one average, by population, less than one average city in India. But somehow by accepting the knowledge to the same educational institution, implementing the same principles of receiving knowledge which Arjuna implemented, we are receiving the same result. It's very interesting. And this is actually proof that spiritual science is a science. For example, in any part of science, if there is not present the regular principle of or regular methodology of experimenting and coming to the conclusions, we cannot call it science or scientific proof. And very often when we discuss about spiritual science, so-called scientists, they deny idea that spirituality can be science. But I always say that if in any country of the world people are implementing this knowledge according to the standards which are presented by Guru Parampara, we will have same experience all around the world. If I'm living in Croatia, I will stop to think that I'm Croatian. I will be identified with idea I'm spiritual soul, eternal servant of Krishna. If someone is from America, he will stop to consider himself American or, you know, Latin American or whatever, Afro-American. We will start to consider ourselves as a spiritual soul, and we will start to see others as such. In India and everywhere else in the world, some people of opposite nations will be in quarrel or even in a war, like we have so many now. But those people who are born in the same ethnical groups but opposite sides, becoming devotees according to the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, they will stop to see each other as enemies, isn't it? And this is the proof that spiritual science is a science. If we develop qualities of humility, tolerance, if we become focused and surrender, we will experience Krishna's presence in our life, practically in the same way. Just a small example. 3 months ago, after a long time, I brought a group of devotees who were going first time to Vrindavan with me, like 13 people. And when we came back, someone asked me how it was. And I said, it's always wonderful, but let this lady said, her name is Clara, he should said how it was. And then she started to explain her experiences. And while listening, I was so attracted to her realizations. He was together with her husband, who was second time, but she was first, and then 10 others were first time. And then when all of them start to share their experiences, I start to cry because they were my experiences too. So the people got same experience as I got, and same experience as those who are teaching us how to see Vrindavan, how to perceive Holy Dham. You know, they came to the area of Govardhan. They started to cry. They felt, you know, like such a emotional bliss they never experienced. They felt such attraction to chant holy name. After listening the retreats, they didn't want to listen anything else. They developed such attraction after just being 2.5 weeks in Vrindavan. How it's possible? Possibility comes from the point of view that we follow the same methodology of receiving the knowledge, and then it becomes our own experience of Krishna. And this is amazing. So same experience which Arjuna got while hearing Bhagavad Gita and concluding that he wants to surrender, we are receiving now. And this was now Krishna explaining that was experience of previous kings in long past, or long time ago, much longer than we can even imagine how it long it was. So this is amazing experience. And but main point is that if we miss the essential principles of knowledge, as Atava Krishna Prabhu asked the question before we started to record, that how it's possible that Krishna was saying the same thing before, and then we explained that the essence of knowledge is the same. Maybe the details and how he addressed Arjuna and Vivasvan is different, but the essence of the knowledge is the same. And therefore, our acharyas, we are considered like Rupa Goswamis. Therefore, our acharyas, especially Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami in their work, like Hari Bhakti Vilasa, then Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, etc., they are making difference between the essential principles and the details which are connected with the time, place, and circumstance. But essential principles, like what does it mean to surrender to Krishna? What does it mean to understand transcendental appearance? Now we will come to this verse of Krishna, his activities, etc., his departure, this and methodology of receiving this knowledge, this is considered to be principle. But details are, just should we cook Indian food in the West, or is it just essential, or it's optional? These are the details which are not essential. If you're living in a certain area when you cannot pick up so easily mango, avocado, etc., you cannot depend on this food stuff, and that's only offerable to Krishna. No, you know that food you need to offer should be ahimsa, and that it should be prepared with love and devotion, understanding that seed of life comes from Krishna, earth, sun, which is Krishna's eye, water, and everything, minerals in earth, everything is given by Krishna. And therefore, by growing the foodstuff and cooking for Krishna, we should be able to perceive this, and we should be able to develop gratitude and love for that. And when we cook with this attitude to Krishna, then it's considered prasadam, and it transforms our consciousness wherever we do it. And this is the principle. But should we use the cabbage, potato, or cauliflower, eggplant? It's a detail which is not so important. It's just secondary, or even it's just not so important. But the way how we should meditate, how we should understand, this is the primary or main principle of bhakti yoga or devotion. And in the same way, when we discuss about these things, we should understand them in a proper way. And nowadays, in 21st century, there is a great discussion amongst many spiritualists about the how to say, functionality of Guru Parampara. Is it possible that someone after Prabhupada can become qualified to hold this service as a guru, or it should be Ritvi Guru, or it should be that, this and that? This is great discussion. But if we are practicing properly Bhakti Yoga, we will get our own experience, which is supported by these premises in which we are reading about now. And we will understand that those souls who are trying to follow the principle of being surrendered disciples of Acharya, they become empowered to empower others in receiving the knowledge. And I can say for myself, I don't have any tendencies or desires to act as a guru. But since I'm so much in love with Krishna consciousness, there is a need to share it, which I cannot control. And I'm not so educated, I'm not so, how to say, eloquent, etc. But I just have this desire to share, because this knowledge changed my life. And this knowledge opened me eyes that I can see that the temporarities of this world, which becomes such a challenge for the people, that they're experiencing all possible traumas in life, can be solved by spiritual knowledge. And I experienced it solved my problems. and I want to share it. And in that capacity, I'm trying to do it as a service without my ego, or as Prabhupada said, his personal interpretation. I act as a medium which can influence the consciousness of the people. And we can responsibility to their spiritual masters to carry on his mission, and they surrender to this fully, obviously they become empowered, and they don't think it's my power. They know it's Prabhupada's power, it's Krishna's power, it's Nityananda's power, it's Lord Balaram's power, because when someone removes his ego, then this divine nectar can flow. And as much as someone is removed his ego from the picture, in that much capacity, this person can influence consciousness of others. And this is the proof that this method of Guru Parampara is really functioning, and it's beautiful, it's mysterious, it's amazing, and it's something which is much greater than we are and than we can possibly ever be, because it's divine. And it's fascinating. And this is the mystery of Guru Parampara. This is the mystery. And if we try to become not blind followers, because it will be on the 34th verse in the comment, Prabhupada will explain that transmission of this knowledge should be done by a humble approach, where we are ready to serve spiritual teacher, and when we are ready to ask the questions, this question and answers and service attitude is main principle. And then Prabhupada explained that, but blind following, it's not the way. This is not the way. Blind following, where we are exaggerating the power of our spiritual master, just that we can how to say, hold our faith in him. This is not the way. The way how we should develop faith is through the knowledge, and then through our own experience. Faith should be based on the knowledge, not on the personality cult ideas or anything else, which is just not conducive for spiritual knowledge. And therefore, it's as Prabhupada said, it's just prohibited to try to receive knowledge by blind following. No, this is not the way. But being humble servants, patient servants, being ready to hear that such a great souls, then certainly not Prabhupada, neither they think that they are Prabhupada or they should ever be Prabhupada. No disciple will think about that in that way, but they can do the work of Prabhupada. They can influence the consciousness of the people. Even Prabhupada said, my spiritual master and Lord Chaitanya, and Krishna could use me as an instrument. So Prabhupada, who is our savior, like Patita Pavana Hetu, how to say, it's just amazing personality. He thinks himself just as an insignificant, humble servant of his spiritual master. And this is the principle of Guru Parampara. And when we approach to this subject matter in that way, then certainly we will experience empowerment of the teachers, and which influences our consciousness, and we will feel that we are becoming empowered to share this knowledge to others. And this is mystery of Bhakti Yoga, we can say like this. And since Krishna understood that this chain of spiritual teachers was broken, through Arjuna, he was establishing again. And very interesting is that Prabhupada is mentioning that this knowledge was primarily meant to the rulers, to those who are on the highest post of management of the states or planets even, because they're supposed to lead citizens in a spiritual way. They're supposed to be, how to say, role models who are living these spiritual principles so that they can, how to say, set up the standard for that they can follow this standard and then exist to contemporary world. We see how many challenges we have in individual countries, then globally, whole world, so many challenges on the ecological level, on the political level, economical level. Yeah, how to survive, how to find enough food and water for everyone. There are such challenges, and Krishna consciousness or spiritual science is real solution for these problems, because the lack of spiritual understanding and Krishna consciousness forces us to try to satisfy this thirst for love, which is how to say, original need for all living beings, through sense gratification, and nature of sense gratification that requires more and more and more and more, and it becomes never-ending story. And even those who have how to say, the opulence above the possible understanding how rich people can be, they need more. How it's possible? Why they need more? Because the need for prema is or we can say that prema means the ultimate need of the soul. And this need for prema, if it's not satisfied in relationship with Krishna, it becomes like a black hole without end. Whatever you put in, it's not sufficient. Whatever, this sense gratification, that sense gratification, that, whatever you can imagine how you can gratify your senses, it will never fulfill this whole, because it's without, end. It can be only fulfilled when we connect it with the Krishna. And therefore, Prabhupada is emphasizing so much that this knowledge should be understood through Guru Parampara, and the recipient of knowledge should be Krishna's friend. That means favorable to Krishna, and should be bereft of or I don't know, is it proper English word? Should be free from enviousness, because enviousness is original disease of conditioned souls. We want to be enjoyers, as it's said here. There are so many people who are denying Krishna's existence, but they are making money on Krishna's words. Prabhupada said like this, if you remember in the commentary. And we are doing the same. If we don't accept our original position that we are spirit souls, part and parcels of Krishna, and what spirit soul is doing, it's just loving Krishna. Love is demonstrated to the attitude of pleasing service to Krishna, giving something to loved person without accepting anything in return. This is called unconditional love. And when we live that life of unconditional love, then we become empowered with so much that we cannot hold it, so much, because Krishna becomes our property practically. Yeah, this is the mystery of spiritual knowledge of Bhakti Yoga, which is given through Guru Parampara. So before we continue, I would like to open forum for discussion if there is any comment or experience you would like to share, or eventually question or whatever, we can spend some time. Okay. So if there is no comments, questions, sharing, we can continue. Someone would like to start to read the text number 4.
Text 4. Arjuna said, "The sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him?" Should I read the purport, Prabhu?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Purport. Arjuna is an accepted devotee of the Lord. So how could he not believe Krishna's words? The fact is that Arjuna is not inquiring for himself, but for those who do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or for the demons who do not like the idea that Krishna should be accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For them, only Arjuna inquires on this point, as if he were himself not aware of the personality of Godhead or Krishna. As it will be evident from the 10th chapter, Arjuna knew perfectly well that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the fountainhead of everything and the last word in transcendence. Of course, Krishna also appeared as the son of Devaki on this earth. How Krishna remained the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, the eternal original person, is very difficult for an ordinary man to understand. Therefore, to clarify this point, Arjuna put this question before Krishna so that he himself could speak authoritatively. That Krishna is the supreme authority is accepted by the whole world, not only at present, but from time immemorial, and the demons alone reject him. Anyway, since Krishna is the authority accepted by all, Arjuna put this question before him in order that Krishna would describe himself without being depreciated by the demons, who always try to distort him in a way understandable to the demons and their followers. It is necessary that everyone for his own interest know the science of Krishna. Therefore, when Krishna himself speaks about himself, it is auspicious for all the worlds. To the demons, such explanations by Krishna himself may appear to be strange because the demons always study Krishna from their own standpoint. But those who are devotees heartily welcome the statements of Krishna when they are spoken by Krishna himself. The devotees will always worship such authoritative statements of Krishna because they are always eager to know more and more about him. The atheists who consider Krishna an ordinary man may in this way come to know that Krishna is superhuman, that he is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, the eternal form of bliss and knowledge, that he is transcendental and that he is above the domination of the modes of material nature and above the influence of time and space. A devotee of Krishna like Arjuna is undoubtedly above any misunderstanding of the transcendental position of Krishna. Arjuna's putting this question before the Lord is simply an attempt by the devotee to defy the atheistic attitude of persons who consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being, subject to the modes of material nature.
Thank you so much. We will read next two more verses and comments, and then we will, because it's again, Arjuna put a question and now Krishna will answer. Can someone continue with the verse number 5?
The personality of Godhead said, "Many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy." And
Yep.
purport.
Yes.
In the Brahma Samhita 533, we have information of many incarnations of the Lord. It is stated there, "I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, who is the original person, absolute, infallible, without beginning. Although expanded into unlimited forms, he is the same original the oldest, and the person always appearing as a fresh youth. Such eternal, blissful, all-knowing forms of the Lord are usually understood by the best Vedic scholars, but they are always manifest to pure, unalloyed devotees. It is also stated in the Brahma Samhita, I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, who is always situated in various incarnations such as Ram, Nrsimha, and many sub-incarnations as well, but who is the original personality of Godhead, known as Krishna, and who incarnates personally also. In the Vedas, it is said that the Lord, although one without a second, manifests himself in innumerable forms. He is like the Vidurya stone, which changes color yet still remains one. All those multi-forms are understood by the pure, unalloyed devotees, but not by a simple study of the Vedas. Vedashu durlabham, adurlabham, atma bhakto. Devotees like Arjuna are constant companions of the Lord, and whenever the Lord incarnates, the associate devotees also incarnate in order to serve the Lord in different capacities. Arjuna is one of these devotees, and in this verse it is understood that some millions of years ago, when Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god Vivaswan, Arjuna, in a different capacity, was also present. But the difference between the Lord and Arjuna is that the Lord remembered the incident, whereas Arjuna could not remember. That is the difference between the part and parcel living entity and the Supreme Lord. Although Arjuna is addressed herein as the mighty hero who could subdue the enemies, he is unable to recall what had happened in his various past births. Therefore, a living entity, however great he may be in the material estimation, can never equal the Supreme Lord. Anyone who is a constant companion of the Lord is certainly a liberated person, but he cannot be equal to the Lord. The Lord is described in the Brahma Samhita as infallible, achutya, which means that he never forgets himself, even though he is in material contact. Therefore, the Lord and the living entity can never be equal in all respects, even if the living entity is as liberated as Arjuna. Although Arjuna is a devotee of the Lord, he sometimes forgets the nature of the Lord, but by the divine grace, a devotee can at once understand the infallible condition of the Lord, whereas a non-devotee or a demon cannot understand this transcendental nature. Consequently, these descriptions in the Gita cannot be understood by demoniac brains. Krishna remembered acts which were performed by him millions of years before, but Arjuna could not, despite the fact that both Krishna and Arjuna are eternal in nature. We may also note herein that a living entity forgets everything due to his change of body, but the Lord remembers because he does not change his Sat-Chit Ananda body. He is Advaita, which means there is no distinction between his body and himself. Everything in relation to him is spirit, whereas the conditioned soul is different from his material body. And because the Lord's body and self are identical, his position is always different from that of the ordinary living entity. Even when he descends to the material platform, the demons cannot adjust themselves to this transcendental nature of the Lord, which the Lord himself explains in the following verse.
Thank you so much. Can someone read next verse and comment? Hare Krishna. Can we hear each other?
Text 6.
Okay.
Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. The Lord has spoken about the peculiarity of his birth. Although he may appear like an ordinary person, he remembers everything of his many, many past births, whereas a common man cannot remember what he has done even a few hours before. If someone is asked what he did exactly at the same time one day earlier, it would be very difficult for a common man to answer immediately. He would surely have to dredge his memory to recall what he was doing exactly at the same time one day before. And yet men often dare claim to be God or Krishna. One should not be misled by such meaningless claims. Then again, the Lord explains his Prakriti, or his form. Prakriti means nature, as well as Swarupa, or one's own form. The Lord says that he appears in his own body. He does not change his body as the common living entity changes from one body to another. The conditioned soul may have one kind of body in the present birth, but he has a different body in the next birth. In the material world, the living entity has no fixed body but transmigrates from one body to another. The Lord, however, does not do so. Whenever he appears, he does so in the same original body by his internal potency. In other words, Krishna appears in the material world in his original eternal form with two hands folding a flute. He appears exactly in his eternal body, uncontaminated by this material world. Although he appears in the same transcendental body and is Lord of the universe, it still appears that he takes his birth like an ordinary living entity. And although his body does not deteriorate like a material body, it still appears that Lord Krishna grows from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth. But astonishingly, even he never ages beyond youth. At the time of the battle of Kurukshetra, he had many grandchildren at home, or in other words, he had sufficiently aged by material calculations. Still, he looked just like a young man, 20 or 25 years old. We never see a picture of Krishna in old age because he never grows old like us. Although he is the oldest person in the whole creation, past, present, and future, neither his body nor his intelligence ever deteriorates or changes. Therefore, it is clear that in spite of his being in the material world, he is the same unborn, eternal form of bliss and knowledge, changeless in his transcendental body and intelligence. Factually, his appearance and disappearance are like the sun's rising, moving before us, and then disappearing from our eyesight. When the sun is out of sight, we think that the sun is set, and when the sun is before our eyes, we think that the sun is on the horizon. Actually, the sun is always in its fixed position, but owing to our defective, insufficient senses, we calculate the appearance and disappearance of the sun in the sky. And because Lord Krishna's appearance and disappearance are completely different from that of any ordinary, common, living entity, it is evident that he is eternal, blissful knowledge by his eternal potency, and he is never contaminated by material nature. The Vedas also confirm that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unborn, yet he still appears to take his birth in multi-manifestations. The Vedic supplementary literatures also confirm that even though the Lord appears to be taking his birth, he is still without change of the body. In the Bhagavatam, he appears before his mother as Narayan with 4 hands and the decorations of his 6 kinds of full opulences. His appearance is his original eternal form, is his causeless mercy bestowed upon the living entities so that they can concentrate on the Supreme Lord as he is, and not on mental concoctions or imaginations, which the impersonalists wrongly think the Lord forms to be. The word Maya or Atma Maya refers to the Lord's causeless mercy, according to the Vishva Kosha dictionary. The Lord is conscious of all his previous appearances and disappearances, but a common living entity forgets everything about his past body as soon as he gets another body. He is the Lord of all living entities because he performs wonderful and superhuman activities while he is on this earth. Therefore, the Lord is always the same, absolute truth, and is without differentiation between his form and self, or between his quality and body. A question may not be raised as to why the Lord appears and disappears in this world. This is explained in the next verse.
Thank you so much. I mean, these purports are so full of amazing informations and also the thought-provoking stimulants and full of devotional understanding. And actually, our aim by studying Bhakti Shastras is to come to that understanding. There is the conversation between Prabhupada and Swarup Damodar Maharaj in the book Life Comes from Life, where Prabhupada explains to understand Krishna, or to understand the difference between spiritual and material, we have to accept the term Achintya Shakti. Achintya means incomprehensible, something which we cannot understand. It's not that we cannot understand it, but we cannot understand it by usual way how we understand things, to the medium of senses. But there is a way how to understand. And since we cannot understand things by usual methods of pratyaksha or sensual perception, it's called Achintya, Achintya Shakti of the Lord, incomprehensible, something which is not possible to understand by material logic. And one of these truths, and very important truth, is explained here. Because explaining to Arjuna that this knowledge is already given many millions ago to Vivaswan and other kings, Arjuna arise this question. So how it's possible that you who are now could teach them then? How it's possible? And Krishna explained himself about his true nature. Yeah, when we read 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where is description how Krishna is appearing in this world in very detailed way, we can see that Krishna, or spiritual reality, operates on a level which is called Vishuddha Sattva, or pure goodness. We know that we have three modes of nature: ignorance, passion, and goodness. But there is something above that, and it's called pure goodness, or Vishuddha Sattva. And it's actually transcendental goodness, we can say like this. So this is the level of consciousness, or level of existence, spiritual existence, where Krishna operates. And in 10th canto is described that Krishna didn't took birth of Devaki and Vasudeva as usual humans are taking birth, you know, that man and woman comes together, they conceive the child, and you know, we know how this process goes. But no, Krishna first appeared in the pure mind of Vasudeva, and therefore sometimes this Vishuddha Sattva is called also Vasudeva Sattva, Vishuddha or Vasudeva Sattva. And then through pure mind of Vasudeva and his pure heart, Krishna entered in the pure mind and heart of Devaki, and then he appeared. And Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport how Krishna appeared, as a form-armed Narayan form, not as an ordinary child, equipped with the full, how to say, outfit, you know, the crown, the symbols in the foreheads like chakra and club and control and etc. And then Devaki, having maternal feelings toward the Lord, he was very scared that if Kamsa comes and see you, he will kill you, you know, because mother needs to protect the son. Although Krishna appeared in a small version as a form-armed Narayan, Devaki was very fearful of Kamsa, and she said, please transform yourself as an ordinary child. And then Krishna transformed himself, but Krishna didn't lose the power. When Putana came to kill the Krishna, you know, taking the poison on her breast and trying to feed Krishna, like, you know, pretending that she's motherly, she didn't expect that this small baby is a full potency Lord. And then, although looking like a small baby, Krishna is always powerful, supreme personality of Godhead with all opulences, including the absolute power. And Krishna killed Putana. And same with the Vyomasura, who is a demon in the form of the wind storm. He took like Krishna in air, but then all of a sudden, all-powerful Krishna becomes so heavy that Vyomasura couldn't hold him, and then he just fell down and he was killed. And when we analyze all the appearances of the Krishna and his pastimes, we can see that Krishna is always empowered by all energies. And even when Krishna appears in the form of the name, of the holy name, he is accompanied with all these powers. And this is the reason why by whispering Krishna's name or singing Krishna's name, we can experience spiritual transformation. And therefore Lord Chaitanya said, how it's the third verse of Shikshashtaka, Nam namakari bahuda nija sarva shaktis. That means sarva shakti, all shaktis are in this name, because it's not different from you. That's the absolute potency of Krishna. So even when Krishna appears in the form of the name, he is absolutely powerful. What to say if Krishna appears as a person? But taking in consideration that ordinary people can try to comprehend Krishna through the regular method of perceiving anything in this world, that means sensual perception, Arjuna legitimately asked this question: how was possible that you were teaching Vivaswan? And now Krishna explaining the transcendental nature of his, explaining that I'm eternal soul, I'm eternal supreme personality of Godhead, as you and everyone else, as he said in the beginning of 2nd chapter, you, me, and all these kings, we already existed. I remember all this, you don't remember. And Prabhupada explained what's the reason why Krishna cannot lose his remembrance. Because when Krishna appears in this world, he is not appearing as an ordinary person. By laws of karma, being forced to be born in a certain situation in material body. But Krishna appears in his transcendental body, and therefore he is omniscient, he is omnipotent, he is everything, and everything is in him. There is recently, how to say, recently broadcasted movie after that, maybe you know, documentary movie, basically done by American scientists and director who was, how to say, inspired by the stories. And then one of the cardio-chirurg was explaining with the point of view of skepticism that he couldn't accept this idea of that someone has experience of near-death experience. But then he faced so many cases with this, exactly the same experiences. He decided to start some project of scientific research, and then he find that these experiences are repeating again and again in the same way. And then they decided to produce the movie and warn the public that we are eternal, we are not dying. And I watched this movie and I said, we knew already that because it's written in Bhagavad Gita. But interesting was the experience of the people. They experienced that they perceive their bodies and reality amongst themselves, and they were in such a state of consciousness, like super consciousness. They could be present like 36-degree around. You know, like all senses were awakened in all directions. And although they were like facing this side, they could see what is here, what is there. And this is exactly on the how to say, on the same page as Krishna is explaining himself as a original spiritual being. We are all his part and parcels, and we can have such experiences. But Krishna is original, and that means he is all powerful. So Krishna can be simultaneously present everywhere through different ages, because Kala or time is himself. So for Krishna, is not a problem to travel to past, future, being in present in same time, because it's mysterious way how spiritual reality operates. And since Krishna is not born as an ordinary person, but he is self-manifested original personality, Krishna never forgets anything. His power is so amazing that he remembers everything. And he has ability to simultaneously correspond to unlimited number of the souls. And we have this example in again in the 10th chapter 10th canto of Bhagavatam, when gopis were cultivating the romantic love towards Krishna. They somehow start to meditate. I want to be Krishna's. I want to be Krishna has to be my man, my husband. And in order to fulfill their desire, Krishna manifests the Rasa Lila dance, in which every gopi had experienced that Krishna is dancing just with herself. How it's possible? It's possible that Krishna can multiply himself in how to say, I lost the English word. In any number. So unlimited, yeah, unlimitedly. Krishna can manifest himself in unlimited forms. And therefore, to understand Krishna's nature, its nature of his appearance, nature of his disappearance, nature of his activities, it's impossible by material ways as we usually are exposed to. It requires acceptance of the knowledge to Guru Parampara with the proper attitude. That means love and surrender. That means bhakti. Because then, only then, Krishna reveals the secret of his transcendental nature, which becomes so logical to us. I guess that no one of us has a difficulty to connect with points which we are discussing here. We are maybe a difference could be in the maybe in an amount of informations or examples by which we are discussing about certain points, but all of us basically agree. Yeah, Krishna is amazing. Krishna is transcendental. But if any ordinary person who is not gone through the process of purification starts to read such things, it's just it just appears as a fairy tale, as some fiction, which is difficult to accept. But for devotees, we accept Krishna's transcendental nature as a reality. What is the difference? Difference is that someone who becomes devotee, he starts the process of purification of the consciousness. And then this purified consciousness and heart enables us to comprehend the revelations of the Shastra. Otherwise, it's just, if it's just on the intellectual, mental, intellectual or sensual platform, it's become too much. It's just who can believe in this, you know? But for devotees, is just amazing. And then when we start to establish relationship with Krishna, because start to follow sadhana means the it's based on understanding that we are eternally Krishna's parts and his servants, and it's called Sambandha Jnana. And when we start to act upon this knowledge, act as a Krishna servants, it's called Abhideya, or devotional service in practice. And when we start to practice, we start to experience more and more Krishna's presence in our life in many different ways. We become aware more and more how Krishna is present. Maybe we cannot see him by our eyes, and we cannot maybe always hear him or smell him or touch him, but we can experience his presence in many different ways. Krishna, for example, says, for me comes knowledge and forgetfulness, and I am one who gives remembrance. And so many times, practically every day, we find ourselves in a situation that we forget something very important for our job, for our life, whatever. And in a crucial moment, all of a sudden it comes. And very often we don't react on this. We just, I remembered, and we just act upon this, not connecting it to Krishna. But actually, it comes from Krishna. And when we become aware of this more and more, every time when it comes like this, we will be very touched and moved and grateful. And we will say, oh, thank you, Krishna, because we knew it comes from Krishna. And this is the way how we're establishing personal relationship with Krishna. More and more we are becoming aware, more and more we will feel touched and grateful. And then we will be empowered with the ability to more and more perceive him. It's like the mystical way how Krishna is appearing in our life. And then we will recognize how Krishna is manifests through deity form, to the holy name, to the kata of himself. We will listen in 10th canto. Krishna will explain to Arjuna, my devotees who are serving me with love, they find great pleasure in discussing about me. Machita madgata pranaya bodhayanta paraspara kata shanta shamam nityatu shanti charamanticha. This is the how and Prabhupada explained in this verse of 10th canto that in beginning we find the pleasure in the service, because somehow we find it's nature of the soul to serve. But when we become aware that the summit of service in the service to Krishna, then we find pleasure in that. But eventually we find even more pleasure in listening of Krishna, sharing about Krishna. And more we engage in that way, more and more Krishna is reciprocating. And we become empowered more and more with the ability to perceive Krishna, to recognize him, to be aware of him. And therefore Prabhupada called this movement for Krishna consciousness. Being Krishna conscious means being aware that Krishna is everywhere, and I'm part and parcel of this Krishna. In the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we will listen. Prabhupada will explain in one purport, we are all small Krishnas. Of course, we don't think I'm Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, but we are aware, yeah, we are small parts of Krishna, therefore we are small Krishnas. And in that way, we are eternally connected with Krishna. And this understanding is so important, because this understanding, as I said, empowers us with the ability that we perceive Krishna more and more, and that we can establish more and more closer and closer relationship with Krishna, so that we feel his presence all the time practically. Soon we start to chant Hare Krishna, we become Krishna conscious, we remember Krishna. This is the way. And now Krishna will explain the purpose of his appearance in this world. In order to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I advent myself millennium after millennium. According to Bhagavad Gita, a sadhu, holy man, is a man in Krishna consciousness. A person may appear to be irreligious, but if he has the qualifications of Krishna consciousness wholly and fully, he is to be understood to be as a sadhu. And dushkritam appeals to one who doesn't care for Krishna consciousness. Such a miscreants or dushkritam are described as foolish and the lowest of the mankind, even though they may be decorated with the mundane education. Whereas another person who is on 100% engaged in Krishna consciousness is accepted as a sadhu, even though such a person may neither be learned nor well cultured. So here we see this, that someone can be called a religious man, but not accepting Supreme Personality of Krishna as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, and can be educated or whatever, but such a person is the lowest of the mankind. And from another hand, someone can be considered irreligious by certain considerations, or very simple person and not educated, but if this person is fully surrendered to God, this person is called the best of the man. This is very interesting concept. As far as atheistic are concerned, it is not necessary for the Supreme Lord to appear as he is to destroy them, as he did with the demons like Ravana and Kamsa. The Lord has many agents who are quite competent to vanquish demons, but the Lord especially descends to appease. I don't know how it's read. Appease, or someone can say what does it mean if someone is following what we are reading on the text. I don't know this word. His unalloyed, yes?
Unalloyed devotees.
No, before that, there is the word which I don't understand.
Oh, appease?
Yeah, what does it mean?
Appease means like to kind of like how do you say, like make someone feel better?
Okay. To comfort.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but the Lord especially descends to appease his unalloyed devotees who are always harassed by the demons or demoniac. The demon harasses the devotee even though the latter may happen to be his kin. Although Prahlada Maharaj was the son of Hiranyakashipu, he was nonetheless persecuted by his father. Although Devaki, the mother of Krishna, was the sister of Kamsa, she and her husband Vasudeva were persecuted only because Krishna was to be born of them. So Lord Krishna appears primarily to deliver Devaki rather than kill Kamsa. But both were performed simultaneously. Therefore, it is said here that to deliver the devotees and vanquish the demon miscreants, the Lord appears in different incarnations. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Krishnadas Kaviraj, the following verse summarize these principles of incarnations. The avatar or incarnation of Godhead descends from the kingdom of God for material manifestation, and the particular form of the personality of Godhead who so descends is called an incarnation or avatar. Such incarnations are situated in the spiritual world, the kingdom of God. When they descend to the material creation, they assume the name avatar. There are various kinds of avatars, such as Purusha avatars, Guna avatars, Lila avatars, Shaktavesha avatars, Manvantara avatars, and Yuga avatars. All appears on a schedule all over the universe, but Lord Krishna is the primeval Lord, the fountainhead of all avatars. Lord Shri Krishna descends for the specific purpose of mitigating the anxieties of the pure devotees who are very anxious to him in his to see him in his original Vrindavan pastimes. Therefore, the prime purpose of Krishna avatar is to satisfy his unalloyed devotees. The Lord says that he incarnates himself in every millennium. This indicates that he incarnates also in the age of Kali. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the incarnation of the age of Kali is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who spread the worship of Krishna by the Sankirtana movement, congregational chanting of the holy name, and spread Krishna consciousness throughout India. He predicted that this culture of Sankirtana would be broadcast all over the world, from town to town and village to village. Lord Chaitanya, as the incarnation of Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is described secretly, but not directly in the confidential parts of the revealed scriptures, such as the Upanishads, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, etc. The devotees of Lord are much attracted to the Sankirtana movement of Lord Chaitanya. This avatar of Lord does not kill the miscreants, but delivers them by the causeless mercy of the Lord. So here it is described that Krishna is appearing millennium after millennium with the two purposes, actually three. One is to protect his devotees, and this is the main principle or main reason. One is to punish the miscreants, and third reason is to establish the, we can say, Yuga Dharma, or a religious form, or the form which is most appropriate for certain age to deliver people to higher consciousness. And in a beautiful comment, Prabhupada explains that that the main reason why Krishna appears in this world is just to please his devotees, as I learned new word, not yet fully, but I will. So Krishna wants to comfort his devotees. I think in one of the in my first association with you on this platform, I read you the verse from 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when it's described after explaining to Arjuna the difference of the following the spiritual principles and not, Krishna concluded, if you act upon this knowledge, you will be protected from all challenges of material life. But if you will not act like this, you will be lost. And Prabhupada explained that this point, being lost, means lost in the circle of birth and death. And then in the purport, Prabhupada explains that so such a devotee who tries to serve Krishna 24 hours a day, Krishna becomes his close friend. And Prabhupada describes even more what does it mean in practical life. And Prabhupada explains, so Krishna is taking care for the comfort of his friend, that means us, and Krishna is giving himself to such a friend. So it's so beautiful that, and it's confirmed in this purport, that main reason why Krishna appears is just to please his devotees, to comfort them, and to have possibility to exchange with them, to how to say, to speed their desire to come back to him. And two second reasons are of secondary value, we can say like that. And as Prabhupada said, Krishna is rather come to protect Devaki than to kill Kamsa. But Krishna simultaneously did both things. He protected Devaki and he killed Kamsa. And also, in the same time, Krishna is establishing the religious principles for certain age. And then further, you were describing this in your homeworks. Prabhupada quotes the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the purport in which Krishnadas Kaviraj describes, actually it's a whole chapter in which is described how Chaitanya avatar is actually Krishna. And then Krishna Das Kaviraj explains that there are that there are many different avatars, like Guna avatars, Lila avatars, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu are Guna avatars. There are many Lila avatars, there are Purusha avatars, Karanadakashai Vishnu, Garbhadakashai Vishnu, Kshiradakashai Vishnu. These are called Purusha avatars. And then it's described that Krishna comes personally to how to say, to encourage his own devotees. And in Jaiva Dharma of Thakur Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and also in Sandarbhas of Jiva Goswami, it's explained that although in the soul, in our heart, resides Super Soul as a manifestation of Kshiradakashai Vishnu, in the hearts of devotees, Krishna personally resides. And it's so wonderful. Yeah, and to understand this, it's possible through medium of Krishna Bhakti. And it's interesting, Damodar Swami has a very interesting way to explain how, why there is such importance of spiritual association of devotees. And he gives example how we get the picture, photo. You need perspective and focus. And devotees who are surrendered to Krishna, serious practitioners of Krishna consciousness, they give us the broader picture or proper perspective of the meaning of everything, and they give us focus by directing us how to, by following the certain principles of sadhana, we purify our heart and we focus our attention to Krishna, and then we get beautiful pictures of our own experiences of Krishna consciousness, our own experiences of being able to perceive Krishna's presence in our life. Okay, is there some question or comment for what we are discussing right now? We can continue with text number 9.
Text
Should I
9.
read?
Sorry.
Yeah, someone can read, please.
Janma karmacha medivyam evam joveti tatvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naitima meti sorjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord's descent from his transcendental abode is already explained in the 6th verse. One who can understand the truth of the appearance of the personality of Godhead is already liberated from material bondage, and therefore he returns to the kingdom of God immediately after quitting this present material body. Such liberation of a living entity from material bondage is not at all easy. The impersonalists and the yogis attain liberation only after much trouble and many, many births. Even then, the liberation they achieve, merging into the impersonal Brahma-jyotir of the Lord, is only partial, and there is the risk of returning to this material world. But the devotee, simply by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and activities of the Lord, attains the abode of the Lord after ending this body and does not run the risk of returning to this material world. In the Brahma Samhita 533, it is stated that the Lord has many, many forms and incarnations. Advaitam, Achyutam, and Adim, Anantarupam. Although there are many transcendental forms of the Lord, there are still one and the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. One has to understand this fact with conviction, although it is incomprehensible to mundane scholars and empiric philosophers. As stated in the Vedas, Purusha Bodhini Upanishad, Eko Devo Nitya Nila Lila Nurakto, Bhaktya Vyapi Hridi Antaratma. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally engaged in many, many transcendental forms in relationships with his unalloyed devotees. This Vedic version is confirmed in this verse of the Gita personally by the Lord. He who accepts this truth on the strength of the authority of the Vedas and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who does not waste time in philosophical speculations, it attains the highest perfectional stage of liberation. Simply by accepting this truth on faith, one can, without a doubt, attain liberation. The Vedic version, Tat Tvam Asi, is actually applied in this case. Anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the Supreme, or who says unto the Lord, you are the same Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead, is certainly liberated instantly, and consequently his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. In other words, such a faithful devotee of the Lord attains perfection, and this is confirmed by the following Vedic assertion. Tam eva viditwati mritumeti nanya panta vidyate yanaya. One can attain the perfect stage of liberation from birth and death simply by knowing the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there is no other way to achieve this perfection. Shvetasvatara Upanishad 3:8. That there is no alternative means that anyone who does not understand Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is surely in the mode of ignorance, and consequently he will not attain salvation simply, so to speak, by licking the outer surface of the bottle of honey, or by interpreting the Bhagavad Gita according to mundane scholarship. Such empiric philosophers may assume very important roles in the material world, but they are not necessarily eligible for liberation. Such puffed up mundane scholars have to wait for the costless mercy of the devotee of the Lord. One should therefore cultivate Krishna consciousness with faith and knowledge, and in this way attain perfection.
Thank you so much. So, Prabhupada again explains here that the main qualification to understand Krishna is faith and knowledge about Krishna. And this practically in many verses in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, we will find, especially in comments, where Prabhupada is warning. This verse is such a beautiful explanation, which should be very encouraging for us to live life of Krishna consciousness. I mean, no one can live on the promises, but even promises in Krishna consciousness are so good. But point is that I always said like this: when we start to implement basic methodology of Krishna consciousness, following the sadhana, regularly chanting, following the full rules and regulations, we experience peace of mind. We experience not ordinary peace of mind. We experience such a peace that no material disturbances can anymore disturb us in any way. And even when we come to very heavy situations, we stay very calm and peaceful. How it's possible? Because Krishna, as we said, is all powerful, and when we associate with him through the process of bhakti yoga, we become empowered with this spiritual power. And somehow, even although we can be neophytes in Krishna consciousness, just in the beginning, beginner stage, but we can experience how to say, such a deep peace, courage, and fearfulness. No more fears of anything. How it's possible? It's possible because Krishna is all-powerful person. And in next verse, it will be explained by Krishna himself, again, the method how we can come to this stage of faith and knowledge, which empowers us that we develop gratitude and love for Krishna. This is very important to understand. And then we do not depend on your promises, like, believe and you will be saved. This is not sufficient. But it becomes our own experience. We feel blissful. Because the premises of happiness are based on the peace of the mind. And when we have as Krishna said on the end of the 2nd chapter of Gita, when we have a clear vision of the life, then we become peaceful in the mind, and then we can experience happiness. If we are all the time disturbed with so many things, then it's difficult to talk about happiness. But when we are connected with the Krishna, having the clear vision what is the goal, then naturally we become peaceful. It's such a natural thing. And from that, we can derive all the other good qualities and good experiences. We become happy, we become joyful, because Krishna consciousness is as such. And then we don't need to depend anymore on the promises. We get our own experiences now. As I told you, the short story of new devotees who came first time in Vrindavan, and they experienced the tears of ecstasy, tears of love, tears of gratitude, etc. How it's possible? It's so powerful, you know, to be connected with the Krishna through different ways, and Panchangam Bhakti are the 5 most powerful ways how we can be connected with the Krishna. You know, listening regularly Bhagavatam Katha, chanting the holy name, associating with devotees, being or visiting holy places, or create our home as a holy place of worship, and what I forget, worshipping the deities. These are the most powerful angas of bhakti. And if we practice only one, we can very easily become Krishna consciousness. If we practice more, then it's fastest. And then it becomes our own experience. And dear devotees, this is the most important thing. Our own experience. When we have our own experience, even when we come to the situations that we are not so much inspired, or when there are challenges who are so big that we reduce our sadhana or whatever, and it might happen in life, we will never lose the faith in Krishna. We will never lose this bliss of and security, finding ourselves sheltered in Krishna. This is so important. And yeah, therefore we practice Krishna consciousness on the level of experience. It's experiential practice. And then obviously the promises of going to spiritual world, to associate with Krishna in spiritual world, becomes very realistic. Why? Because, as I said, even on the beginning stages, Krishna is so powerful that when we associate with him through this how to say medias from whom he is manifested, we can experience such a strong presence of Krishna. So there is no need to wait to die to see what will happen. But even now in the realistic time of our lives, we can experience so much Krishna's presence that we can become so convinced. And that's what's wanted. And therefore, we need to follow the program of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, so that we come gradually to the platform of Raganuga Sadhana, where we can easily remember Krishna, when we become attached to Krishna, when we become just in love in Krishna. That's the point. And next verse, Krishna explains the methodology and what are the possible obstacles. Can someone read that? It's text number 10.
Text 10. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me. Many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. Purport. As described above, it is very difficult for a person who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the supreme absolute truth. Generally, people who are attached to the bodily conception of life are so absorbed in materialism that it is almost impossible for them to understand how the Supreme can be a person. Such materialists cannot even imagine that there is a transcendental body which is imperishable, full of knowledge, and eternally blissful. In the materialistic concept, the body is perishable, full of ignorance, and completely miserable. Therefore, people in general keep this same bodily idea in mind when they are informed of the personal form of the Lord. For such materialistic people, materialistic men, the form of the gigantic material manifestation is supreme. Consequently, they consider supreme to be impersonal, and because they are too materially absorbed, the conception of retaining the impersonality after liberation from matter frightens them. When they are informed that spiritual life is also individual and personal, they become afraid of becoming persons again, and so they naturally prefer a kind of merging into the impersonal void. Generally, they compare the living entities to the bubbles of the ocean, which merge into the ocean. That is the highest perfection of spiritual existence, attainable without individual personality. This is a kind of fearful stage of life, devoid of perfect knowledge of spiritual existence. Furthermore, there are many persons who cannot understand spiritual existence at all. Being embarrassed by so many theories and by contradictions of various types of philosophical speculation, they become disgusted or angry and foolishly conclude that there is no supreme cause and that everything is ultimately void. Such people are in a diseased condition of life. Some people are too materially attached and therefore do not give attention to spiritual life. Some of them want to merge into the supreme spiritual cause, and some of them disbelieve in everything, being angry at all sorts of spiritual speculation out of hopelessness. This last class of men take to the shelter of some kind of intoxication, and their affective hallucinations are sometimes accepted as spiritual vision. One has to get rid of all three stages of attachment to the material world: negligence of spiritual life, fear of spiritual personal identity, and the conception of void that arises from frustration in life. To get free from these three stages of material concepts of life, one has to take complete shelter of the Lord, guided by the bona fide spiritual master, and follow the disciplines and regulative principles of devotional life. The last stage of devotional life is called bhava, or transcendental love of Godhead. According to Bhakti's Rasmrita Sindhu, the science of devotional service, ado shraddha tatha sado, Shadu, Sangota Bhajana Kriya, Tato Nartha Nirvarti Saya, Tato Nishta Ruchis Tata, Atha Shaktis Tato Bhavas, Tatha Prema Bhayudachati, Sada Kanam Ayam Premanaha, Pradur Bhave Bhavit Karmaha. In the beginning, one must have preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. In the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master, and under his instruction, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. By execution of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachments, attains steadiness in self-realization, and acquires a taste for hearing about the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. This taste leads one further forward to attachment for Krishna consciousness, which is matured in bhava, or the preliminary stage of transcendental love of God. Real love of God is called prema, the highest perfectional stage of life. In the prema stage, there is constant engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So by the slow process of devotional service, under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, one can attain the highest stage, being freed from all material attachment, from the fearfulness of one's individual spiritual personality, and from the frustrations that result in void philosophy. Then one can ultimately attain to the abode of the Supreme Lord.
Thank you so much. So in this verse, Krishna explains the way how we can develop this faith and knowledge. And in the purport, Prabhupada explains the challenges someone who starts the spiritual life may have. And he explained that it can be frustration, it can be negligence, etc. And this is the reason why someone who is even interested in spirituality cannot reach this realization. And then Prabhupada quotes this beautiful verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which describes the methodology of development of bhakti, which starts with Adav Shraddha, or first initial faith, which brings us to the sadhu sangha, or association of the spiritual persons. And in such association, we become enthused, and we recognize that we need a guide. and therefore we accept the guide of a bona fide devotee, spiritual teacher, and it's called bhajana kriya. And next, by following the process which pure devotee inspires us to do by his own example, we start the process of anartha nivritti, the process of purification of unwanted things. And then we become steady in our spiritual life. But it requires some discipline. It requires that in the beginning, we voluntarily accept to be disciplined. Actually, accepting a spiritual master means that we give a sanction out of faith and love to advanced devotee to guide us. That means also sometimes to correct us. But this is the process. This is like a marriage, you know. It's a way when we approach, like Arjuna did in the beginning. Okay, now I'm soul surrendered to you. No more, you know, being just friends, etc. No, you are my superior. I empowered you by my trust and love that you guide me in this process. And if we become serious in this process, the result will be certainly beyond all expectations. We can say like this. You know, when someone asks Radhanath Swami, how are you? He always says, better than I deserve. And sometimes I said this to the people, and then they told me, oh, but you deserve more. And I said, can you imagine how I am if I'm better than I deserve? And then they become confused. But point is that the Krishna consciousness is so wonderful that when we become fully, how to say, steady in Krishna consciousness, it's opportunity to just associate with Krishna. And yeah, sometimes we discuss about this and sounds like words, but actually it's true. And Prabhupada used to say, our life is dancing, chanting, dancing, feasting. Yeah, we do many other things, but it's all in that spirit, in the spirit of pleasing someone whom you love. We just need to find a way how to translate our practice from I have to I want to. Because I love it. Some of you are parents. You do so many serious things. You have so many duties, but it's based on love to family, to kids, to wife, or whatever, wife to husband and kids. And we don't feel it's how to say, you don't say to kid, oh, I'm sacrificed so much to you. No, I love you. And then it's not sacrifice. And Krishna is already gave us so many. Krishna gave us body, Krishna gave us intelligence, Krishna gave us all resources which we are using. And it's just the way how to say thank you to Krishna. And then this relationship becomes so wonderful. And yeah, that's the way how to practice Krishna consciousness. Now we have verse number 11, where Krishna concludes that anyway we are all following his path. All of them, as they surrender to me, I reward accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. Being part and parcels of Krishna, we cannot be separated from Krishna. Even when we are in forgetfulness to Krishna, and whatever path we choose, impersonal path or atheistic path or personal path, all paths are Krishna's paths. But only difference is that we are taking to ourselves, from ourselves, opportunity to associate with Krishna. By choosing other paths than Krishna consciousness, we are just taking from ourselves opportunity to experience the beautiful relationship with Krishna. That's the only difference. Otherwise, whatever we do in life, everything is Krishna's. But if we choose some path which is opposite of Krishna, then we are in a situation that we are just losing the opportunity to experience beautiful exchange of love of Krishna. That's all. I was hopeful that we will cover 20 verses, but unfortunately, I'm not yet how to say, coming to the standard that I can go to this, because for me it's so important, and I just cannot go reading, because it's such a wonderful thing to study this shastra. But probably I think that Pushkar Prabhu is next Sunday with you. Chandrasekhar Acharya Prabhu told me, and he will continue. I can just read, and it's 5 o'clock. We will not go more than this. I will write to Chandrasekhar what we covered, and then Pushkar Prabhu will continue with this. And that means you don't need to make again homework. You already did it. Okay. Is there something that you would like to say or ask, or we can finish?
Prabhu, that movie you were talking about, is it free for anyone on the internet? Or how can you watch?
I don't know. I watched it in I broke one of the principles of lifestyle of devotees. I went to movie and I watched it there. I mean, I was some of my students who are listening my classes asked me, did I watch it? And they request me to go to watch. And yeah, it's interesting. Nothing new what we already know, but it's interesting that there is a group of scientists who come together to explore this subject matter, and they come to different evidences, and they open the Pandora's box, so that because they understood there are so many people who are in fear to share their experiences because they will be called mad or whatever. And in that sense, it's very hopeful, especially for those who are not yet in on spiritual path. It's very encouraging and hopeful to watch the movie. And I guess that it could be found on some platform. I don't know. I don't know how to find it. But this is how I watched it.
What was the title?
After that, I think something like that. After that, yeah, that's the title. I can try to find the who is the director of the movie and the exact title, and then I can post on the group so you can try to find it.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, dear devotees, thank you so much for your precious time you invested in these discussions. I wish you nice day or rest of the day, and all the best in your life, and see you sometimes after some time.
Thank you
Hare
very much.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All the
Thank you so
best.
much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.